All my friends were a hodgepodge of races and religions, but it was never a big deal for us. We just got along because we were compatible.
She's never been one to prize race or religion or anything like that in her friends. She's very passionate. She does not believe in any kind of discrimination.
That was what really drove me to be more observant of race relations in Malaysia, and I noticed that my group of friends was the exception rather than the rule. As you get older and you read the newspapers and talk to people, you realize that people have a way of making a big deal out of differences. And I'm not saying that racial and religious and ethnic differences are something that should be cast aside. It's not something that we can ignore, but it's something that we should celebrate. When I was in primary school, I was actually I tried to hide the fact that I was Indian because I was a minority, and I tried to hide the fact that I could speak the Tamil language. And then as I got older, I started asking myself, why am I so ashamed of who I am, what my heritage is? So I got over it. Now I'm very proud of who I am, and I would in no way want to hide it. Obviously, I reacted that way because of the reactions of the people around me, where Tamil was seen as a strange language, it was laughed at. As I was growing up, I was trying so hard to be someone whom I was not, and trying to build myself up to what was considered okay, what was considered normal, and what wasn't considered different. And that obviously worked against me because I was trying so hard to be someone else.
I know she feels as I feel that race is something as Malaysians we should be embracing and something that should be uniting us, versus something that has now become divisive and a way to segregate us further.
Growing up in Malaysia, seeing that there's so much diversity here, the issue of diversity is something that has always drawn me. I really love Malaysia, and I think being in the state has made me even more intensely patriotic. While I was here, I had my usual complaints. But being lifted out of Malaysia and being in a different country allowed me to look at Malaysia from a different viewpoint. I could look at Malaysia more objectively, and I realized how lucky I was to be Malaysian. And I started giving more attention to all the things that are good about Malaysia. It made me realize that there's so much more that we can do. Right now we're all stuck in this sort of deadlock where race is still very much a huge bone of contention, and we're still talking about things that we've talked about for years and years and years. And it's frustrating because I feel like in a way it's almost immature. We're not asking anybody to drop their racial identity. It's just a matter of looking beyond that and realizing that we are more than just Malays, Chinese, Indians, Muruts, Ibans, Eurasians, what have you, but really coming together as Malaysians. It seems like such a simple concept, but we're still struggling so much with it. That's the reason why I've always been drawn to issues dealing with racial tolerance and racial acceptance, and issues that look at diversity. I've always felt that it's a shame of how people are discriminated against or pushed aside simply because they're in one way or another different. We're not trying to get everyone to think the same way, but it's about respect, about realizing that your way is not always the way. With diversity comes, there's a meeting of a lot of minds. And, when you have people from all different backgrounds coming together, it just means more ideas. It means more creativity and more diversity. And that can only be a good thing. As youth, what we can do is we have a responsibility to the country not to waste that. And we have a responsibility to the country not to allow ourselves to be held back simply because we feel like, oh, it's not our problem. Let's face the issues that we have, write about it, talk about it, make movies about it, and let's deal with it. And then we can get on with what Malaysia actually needs to reach its full potential. It does seem like there's nothing that we can do because mindset is a very, very difficult thing to change. The key is really in the younger generation who are growing up more aware of what's happening and who are growing up, you know, with a good sense of diversity and with an open mind and with a willingness to explore this diversity and not just remain within what you know. And I feel like it would be a very, very slow process. But, you know, as the younger generation, as the youth of Malaysia get older and start holding more positions in leadership and start being able to make more of an impact, we'll see this change happening. And my dream Malaysia would be a place where nobody would feel afraid to bring up issues that are actually affecting the country. When I was in my senior year at American University, my senior project was about the stigma faced by HIV/AIDS patients in Malaysia. And you know, that's another form of discrimination that you see, because HIV/AIDS is a bit of a taboo subject here. And because it's so taboo, people who are actually directly or indirectly affected by HIV/AIDS are ostracized. And we're not doing anything about addressing the issue. And by ignoring it, you know, we can't ignore the fact that people are getting AIDS, people are dying from HIV/AIDS. But we're not doing anything about it. So I did some research on it, and what I would love to do is to create a documentary, a social documentary addressing the issue of the stigma faced by HIV/AIDS patients here. I would love to work towards these issues that I'm passionate about and starting the conversation, getting people to reevaluate what they might think about certain groups, you know, reevaluate prejudices and stereotypes. And in the process, I know it would make me reevaluate what I feel about different groups in Malaysia, because none of us are immune to this. So I would love to go into that line basically through the education of the masses. Just bring to light these issues that I'm passionate about in any way that I can, and just reach as many people as I can.